This video will show you how to assemble the RadKick. This video will show the 7-speed model, but the assembly steps are the same for the Belt Drive model. Photograph all 4 sides of the box and the label with the serial numbers. Make note of any damage to the box and keep these photos for your records. Use a box cutter to remove any packing straps and open the box top. Locate the owner's manual and quick reference card. Keep these nearby for reference during the assembly. With the help of a friend, carefully lift the e-bike out of the box and place it upright on the back wheel and fork protector plate. Locate the accessory box that contains the charger, pedals, and assembly toolkit. You may need to remove a green zip tie to reach this box. The assembly toolkit contains a variety of tools to help with assembly, but don't worry if you end up not using some of the tools. You'll also need flat side cutters to remove zip ties, a bike floor pump with a Schrader valve and pressure gauge, and a torque wrench with a set of Allen bits and a crowfoot bit to complete the assembly. Use flat side cutters to remove the green zip ties, holding the front wheel and fender to the bike and set aside for later. Only remove green zip ties during unpacking. Note that the pedal arm crank may have been mounted in the front wheel spokes for shipping, so be careful when removing the front wheel. Remove the rest of the packaging and recycle according to local rules. Or save the packaging if you might need to ship your bike in the future. Remove the keys from the handlebar and set aside for later. Orient the front fork so that the stem is facing forward and the brake caliper is on the non-drive side of the bike. If necessary, rotate the stem and front fork and make sure the cables are not twisted around the head tube. Use a 5mm Allen wrench to unthread the stem faceplate bolts and washers, and then remove the faceplate and set aside. Hold the handlebar up on the stem with the brake levers facing forward, the display on the rider's left side, and the throttle on the rider's right side. Make sure the wiring harness is routed through the frame down tube on the brake side, and the brake cable is routed straight down to the fork and not twisted around the head tube or other cables. Center the handlebar on the stem and place the stem faceplate over the handlebars. Position the headlight bracket between the faceplate and stem, and not in front of the faceplate. Thread in the 4 bolts and washers by hand, and then use the Allen wrench to tighten the bottom 2 bolts first until the headlight bracket is secure, and then tighten the top 2 bolts until secure. Use a torque wrench to torque all 4 bolts in an X pattern to the value listed in your owner's manual. Use a T20 Torx wrench to loosen the headlight angle bolt and adjust the headlight slightly downward so it won't blind oncoming traffic. Once adjusted, tighten the adjustment bolt until secure. Use the 15mm socket wrench to remove the axle nuts holding the fork to the fork protector plate, and then remove the axle. Lift the fork off the protector plate and carefully set it on the ground. Recycle the fork protector plate, temporary axle, and axle nuts if possible. Remove the protective plates from both sides of the front wheel. Loosen the axle nuts on both sides of the wheel and move the washers against the axle nuts for installation. During assembly, be careful not to touch the brake rotor on the front wheel, as doing so can deposit oil on the rotor and reduce braking function. Remove the hydraulic brake pad spacer from the brake caliper on the front wheel. Once you've removed it, do not squeeze the front brake lever until the wheel is fully installed. Carefully lift the front of the bike and lower the fork onto the front wheel. Ensure the brake rotors enter the caliper between the brake pads evenly on both sides. Ensure the axle enters the fork dropouts fully on both sides. Double check that the wheel axle is level and parallel to the ground, and that the wheel is centered in the fork. Use the 15mm socket wrench to tighten the axle nuts on both sides of the fork until secure. Use a torque wrench to torque both sides of the front wheel axle to the value listed in your owner's manual. Once your wheel is installed, you may prop your bike on the kickstand for the rest of the assembly. Test the front wheel installation using these tests. First, with a friend holding the front of the bike up, spin the front wheel to ensure it has no wobble or looseness. Second, while straddling the bike with hands on the handlebars, squeeze the front brake lever with your left hand. Rock the bike forward and backward. Ensure the front brake prevents the front wheel from spinning and that there's no play or wiggle in the wheel, handlebar, or front fork. Any sign of play or wiggle is a sign that you may not have properly secured the front wheel and that you should repeat the installation process. Perform these tests before every ride. Locate the front fender for installation. Remove the mounting bolt from the fork bridge and set aside. Pass the fender from the back of the wheel forward, under the fork bridge. Pass the bolt through the back of the fender bracket and then thread into the mounting point on the fork bridge by hand. Use a 4mm Allen wrench to tighten the bolt until secure. Use a torque wrench to torque the mounting bolt to the value listed in your owner's manual. Use a 4mm Allen wrench to remove the mounting hardware from the L-bracket mounting point on the fork arm. Place the fender arm eyelet over the L-bracket and thread in the bolt by hand. Secure the mounting bolt with the Allen wrench. Repeat the process with the mounting arm on the other side of the fork. Check that the fender is centered. The wheel should spin freely without touching the fender. Use a torque wrench to torque the fender mounting arm bolts to the values listed in your owner's manual. Find the pedals and identify which is the right and left pedal by the sticker on the pedal or the markings on the pedal axle. Apply a pea-size amount of bicycle grease to the threaded portion of each pedal axle. The right pedal has a smooth axle and threads onto the drivetrain side of the bike. Carefully thread the right pedal by hand onto the right crank by turning clockwise toward the front of the bike. Be careful not to cross-thread or damage the threads. The left pedal has grooves on the axle and threads onto the left side of the bike. Carefully thread the left pedal by hand onto the left crank by turning counterclockwise, also toward the front of the bike. Once the pedals are fully threaded onto the cranks, use the torque wrench with a crowfoot bit to tighten to the value listed in your owner's manual. Wipe off any excess grease. Next, we'll inflate the tires. Check that the tire beads and tires are damage-free and evenly seated around the rims. For more information about seating tires and tubes, refer to your owner's manual. Use a floor pump with a Schrader valve and pressure gauge to inflate each tire to the recommended PSI indicated on the tire's sidewall. Do not overinflate or underinflate tires. Open the seat post quick release lever and remove the seat post. Adjust the clamp so it's centered over the notch on the seat tube. Apply a small amount of grease to the seat post and install the seat post. Be sure the minimum insertion marking is completely inside the seat tube. Adjust the seat post up or down to a comfortable height. Tighten the adjustment thumb nut on the clamp with the lever in line halfway closed. When you feel resistance, close the lever fully, which should require enough pressure to leave an imprint in your hand. The seat post should not move once the lever is closed. Perform a handlebar twist test by standing at the front of the bike and bracing the front wheel between your feet and lower legs. Hold both handlebar grips and push forward with one hand while pulling back with the other hand. Push and pull with about 20 pounds of force with each hand. Check that the handlebar doesn't move out of alignment with the wheel. Then, switch hands so the opposite hands are pushing and pulling with about 20 pounds of force. If the handlebar and stem rotate out of alignment with the front wheel, check the tightness of your stem clamp bolts and tighten if necessary. Next, perform a handlebar push test by bracing your front wheel against a wall and mounting the bike. Adjust the seat height so you can sit with your feet on the ground and your hands on the handlebar. Squeeze the brake lever and push the handlebar toward the wall with about 100 pounds of force. If the handlebar rotates inside the stem, you will need to realign the handlebar and retighten the stem faceplate bolts. Be sure to torque them to the value listed in your owner's manual. Verify that the chain moves through the entire drivetrain smoothly by rotating the pedal and crank toward the back of the e-bike slowly, as if you were pedaling backwards. For the belt drive model, ensure the belt is seated on the chain ring and is free of any cracks, tears, holes, or missing teeth. Before riding, check that all hardware on the bike is torqued to the values listed in the owner's manual. Refer to the owner's manual for instructions on how to adjust components on the bike for comfort and safety. If you are assembling the bike for someone else, be sure to attach the Rider Quick Reference Card to the handlebar. We recommend getting a tune-up from a local, professional, reputable bike mechanic within the first 50 to 100 miles of riding. Follow the maintenance schedule in your owner's manual. Work through the safety checklists in the owner's manual and test the bike fully before riding. Check that the battery is securely mounted in the frame. Use the key to unlock the battery for removal. Turn to the locked position to insert the battery for usage. Turn to the hold position to ensure the battery is secure and cannot pop out while riding. Press the power button on the color display to power on the e-bike. Remove the key before riding. Never let anyone operate this bike unless they are at least 16 years old and have read the operating instructions detailed in the owner's manual. The age requirement for e-bikes may be older than 16 in your area. Check your local laws and rules for the areas you intend to ride. Whenever you ride, wear closed-toe shoes, comfortable clothing, and of course, a helmet. Make sure you can be seen by others on the road by wearing bright and reflective clothing and ensuring your headlight and taillight are always on and visible to others. E-bike disc brakes may wear out faster than would be the case for non-motorized bicycles, requiring more service. Make sure to inspect brake components before every ride and follow the maintenance intervals listed in your owner's manual. Like all vehicles, e-bikes need to be checked regularly to ensure nothing will jeopardize your safety or the safety of those around you. Follow all safety instructions and checklists in the owner's manual. The latest update to the owner's manual for your rad bike is always available on our website at radpowerbikes.com/help. Make it a habit to thoroughly check your bike before every ride. Reach out to our product support team if you have any questions, and ride rad.